Okay, so we're live and we're with Sydney Russo. She is a resident in Cancer Alley, which is in the St. Johns Parish between Louisiana and Baton Rouge. There's a lot of
No.
controversy surrounding her area, where she stays, Cancer Alley. I'm going to let her introduce herself. Where exactly are you located in relation to the Cancer Alley and the Dinka site?
Um, Cancer Alley is considered the area along the river between New Orleans and Baton Rouge. And I live in a city called Laplace, and we're in St. John the Baptist Parish, which is two parishes upriver from New Orleans or Orleans Parish.
And
So
for the
that entire
viewers,
area is,
mhm.
what's that?
For the viewers, just to give them a refresher course, why is this area titled Cancer Alley?
Um, I don't know the exact numbers, but there's a large percentage of industrial plants and oil and gas refineries along the river. It's a prime spot for that type of thing, because of the access to the river and railroads for moving all of that oil up and chemicals up and down the river.
And this area is one of the highest concentrated areas of cancer risk. That I've seen that in the if you're
Yeah.
following the Facebook channel, we've been sharing this series that the local news has been doing there. And can you describe to me the effect that these emissions and the chemical plants are having on the residents from what you
Um,
see?
Describe what? The effect?
Yeah, like how is it affecting their daily living? Because I seen in the interview, one of the neighbors, he said the radiation it is giving him trouble swallowing his food, like his throat is or
He's
different
talking
things.
about treatments for his cancer. I
Hmm.
imagine he had esophageal cancer of some I thought he was talking about. So after radiation treatment, it makes it difficult to eat. It's very
Hmm.
painful, I guess, to eat anything when you're being treated for that type of cancer.
Hmm. And this is a predominantly black neighborhood, or is it 50-50? What would you say?
I would say the edge of the area near the plant is, and um, the further out you get, it there. Myself, I'm a single mother with three
Hmm.
children, so I'm economically disadvantaged in that way. I'm a woman
Hmm.
getting paid to begin with, single income household. So that's why I've ended up here. The housing was less expensive. It was more affordable than closer to New Orleans, which is where I work. I work in Jefferson Parish, which is one parish over from Orleans Parish.
Okay, so I got the last part. The first part, did you say it was predominantly black neighborhood?
I believe so. I don't know
Okay.
those figures exactly, but I would think it is a majority.
Hmm.
I don't know, what the exact percentages are, though.
Okay, and
Uh,
you said there's a group called the
that
Concern. Excuse me.
I wanted to say that I think that a lot of the people living in the neighborhoods where the plant was built are descendants of slaves who worked on the sugar plantations, because before we had all of this industry, this whole area was nothing but sugarcane. And there were, many plantations in this area.
Hmm.
So they're direct descendants of uh, slaves that worked on the plantations.
Hmm. I remember reading that because they were saying, I guess the some of the land was owned by black farmers at a point in time. Correct?
Right. I think
Okay.
so. I think you're correct.
Okay.
That,
Okay.
once slavery came to an end, and I think slaves were allowed to purchase a part of the land, or I don't really know that exact history either, but these people have been here for many generations. So it's not true what the plant or people, I've seen people say online that, well, why would people build their house right near the plant? Well, the plant came where these people were already living, and it didn't matter to them that people were living there. And if you believe industry side, there was very few people living. True.
Hmm. And I touch on that in a video I did about environmental issues. Some of them, I don't want to say can be prevented, but maybe they can be prevented if we seem to not really talk about zoning and how because research has shows like in the EPA put out several reports that when the community is active, which this community is, especially in the zoning process, these things are less likely to happen. Are you familiar with how the zoning process allowed this to happen in the first place? Okay.
No,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
all, research that someone else may have already done, or I would need to look into myself. But,
Mhm.
I find very little time between, working full time and trying to maintain a household to
Mhm.
do all of this additional research. I
Mhm.
really, activism could be my life, but at this point, it can't be.
Yeah, activism is definitely a full-time job to say the least.
It definitely is.
So this group, the Concerned Citizens of St. John, can you tell us about it and what exactly is the mission for the group?
Um, they were formed shortly after the informative meeting, which I believe was it at the end of 2015, I believe, after there was a meeting informing the community about the emissions and the high cancer risk. It was formed by Mr. Robert Taylor and some other people in the community. I think they knew each other either through church or just being neighbors, as far as I know. And that's how it started, that they were concerned that a lot of people near them, many people in each family, were dying from cancer or had cancer, were dealing with cancer, many generations of people, and they didn't understand why. And then when this information came out that what was coming out of that plant was a likely carcinogen, then it kind of opened everyone's eyes. Everyone said, oh, well, that makes sense now, although industry doesn't want you to think, people, naysayers, cancer could be caused by a lot of things. And there is a lawsuit right now that was filed on behalf of every person that lives in St. John Parish. It's a class action suit. And that's one of the things that the attorneys are trying to put together, is some type of data that will link that chemical with a specific kind of cancer. So that's part of what's being done, in the background, that's not hitting the news right now, because we don't have that data altogether where we can make those links. You can make assumptions about it. It's pretty obvious to me that that's got to be the cause,
Mhm.
but you can't go into a court of law and say that.
Now, why is
Well,
that
don't you think,
obvious to
Judge? It's
you?
pretty obvious.
Mhm.
What?
Why is that obvious to you from what
To
you
me,
see?
it's obvious because there are so many people in the area right near the plant that are suffering with strange types of cancer, or the same type of cancer throughout, different generations of their family. It's almost an occurrence for me to find out one answer.
Okay.
Was my cousin's father-in-law. He worked for 30 years at the plant. And now that he's retired, now he's come down with cancer. Details on what type, but I would have to say there's a link. There's got to be.
Now, this plant,
there has been medical testing that has proven that the metabolites for chloroprene, which is the offending chemical, have been found in people's bloodstream and in their liver, the metabolites in their liver. Everyone that's been tested.
And that chloroprene is they said it's the material that you use to use your mouse on a computer, like a rubber kind of material. So it's in a lot of our households already. Is that correct?
Yeah. I have a little pad at my desk at work that holds my wrist up, the wrist pad. I'm sure that's made of neoprene. Chloroprene is used to make neoprene, which is that cushy, rubbery feeling stuff, like a koozie for your soft drink, your beer bottle, whatever. Suits, mouse pads, that type of thing.
Now, this Dinka plant, because as you said, this community might not be the most economic sustained community. And I don't know why I can't remember the gentleman's name, but it kind of seems like, because we deal, there's environmental racism or issue here in a poverty kind of stricken community, but the city council allowed it because they thought it would bring jobs. And I heard a lot of those sentiments talked about from the gentleman, just from some people on the other side who say, well, wait for results and we need to wait and see. These kind of people, it's kind of like they're taking advantage of the vulnerability of the community that needs help, where, okay, we have jobs, but the cost is, the community's health.
Right.
So just what is your personal opinion on that, on these companies taking advantage of vulnerable communities and, making them sick?
My personal opinion is that it's an outrage and it needs to stop. It needs to stop. I don't know what needs to happen. I don't know.
If the plant shuts down, a lot of people feel they might be unemployed, or because there's not enough jobs in the area.
I don't really know. There are a lot of other plants up and down the river that these people could go work at if that plant shut down, in my opinion. But, I'm not working there, so maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. But it would seem like if they can't get their emissions under control and under the EPA recommendation, then I would think that production needs to be reduced and thereby reducing the emissions. But in order to make that happen, we have to have a local or our state level government on board with us, and they're not. They're on board with industry. In that part 2 of that report from the local WWL, his comments, if you listen clearly to what he's saying, that he's not going to set a standard until he sees what happens after all of the control technologies are in place. So he's going to wait and see if that plant's average emissions comes down to 20 or 25, then that's where he's going to want to set the standard, even though anything over 0.02 is unhealthy for human exposure. But he's not willing to set the standard there because he knows the plant can't meet it.
Yeah, and I've done several videos a few months ago dating back to last year that even at safe levels for some of these like EPA standards, it's still very
Not good.
unhealthy. Yeah.
Right.
Like
Not good.
there's really no safe level. So it's like
No.
their measuring stick, and their standard is really a low standard. Just not to
Right.
sound cliche, but it's and another thing is, why do you think this issue is not getting the attention of like Flint and the water pipeline that was last year or a year and a half ago?
What was that pipeline?
In North Dakota. Or was that South
Yeah.
Dakota? It just seems like if this
Another,
is a whole community.
yeah, we have another pipeline issue down here too. I don't know if you've heard that, but there's another connecting pipeline to that Dakota. They're trying to make come right through all of our swampland and everything. And a lot of people use these bayous to get their drinking water. That they want this a whole nother battle. But why this is not getting the attention that Flint got, I don't know, because maybe Flint didn't get all the attention until it really blew up. And I don't think this is really blown up yet. When it blows up, that's when state head of the Department of Health, Dr. Guidry, when he's indicted for not taking action, that's when it's going to blow up.
And
I think.
To me, that really bothers me because, real news or real journalism, they don't wait until it's too late.
Yeah.
You educate the people to prevent so people can self-govern themselves, not it's already happened, it's already hit the fan, So, I mean, the local news, I have to watch part 3, but the first 2 parts, they were very informative.
Yeah, I can't even find part 3. I can't find part 3. I think one of our people posted it though on the
it's on. I think it's on that page.
Yeah.
So
I still haven't made time to watch it.
How involved would you say you have the group? How involved are the community? How involved are the people that the everyday people, the everyday citizens?
Not
is it
very.
Young people?
Not very. No, I don't know why. People are so involved in their own little world and their own little bubble that they don't see outside the bubble. It's crazy. And I kind of feel like that's the state that I was up until and those numbers hit me in the face and I couldn't sleep that night because I couldn't believe that this was even allowed to happen from the get-go, because they knew since 2008 that this chemical was harmful, and they were shut down in another city and they moved here. They knew then what they were doing. Whoever signed off on that deal knew it. They knew. I'm a firm believer that they knew. So
and
you intentionally put the public at risk for economic
what? I'm beginning to get the last part.
Gain. Economic gain with the public at risk. Public health risk, because the economic gains were more important. Now, whose economic gains? That's a question that needs answering. That's where we need some investigative reporting.
And it really
Who benefited from that move from Kentucky to here in 2008?
And you know, these issues, and that's why I'm with this channel, these issues is, and I say this in everyone I speak to that's dealing with environmental issues, it's not like a police shooting or something racist or something that Donald Trump has said. It's not an instant thing where you can say, well, oh, he shot this person, or oh, he planted a gun on him, or Donald Trump said it's really a story. And I think with social media, a lot of things get out, but people's attention spans, it kind of
It's too
misses the
much.
mark on real issues.
Right. And in-depth information.
Yeah.
People people's attention spans aren't, we're overloaded. Social media is overload. Oh, it's total overload where you, even myself, I find myself so overwhelmed with all of the information because the Concerned Citizens is trying to join forces with other environmental groups in the area and come together and try to use all of us, throw all of our weight behind every issue rather than everybody having their own little issue. Um, I forgot where I was going with that point. I'm sorry.
So is there the guy can't remember. Basically, they're saying they're waiting on the results, but there's no timetable for the results.
Chuck Carbrown is who you're trying to think of, the Secretary of Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality.
Yeah, he's waiting on the
He's
results,
the
but he
one.
never gave a timetable.
The administrative order on consent that was signed by the EPA and DENCA, and in which they agreed to reduce the emissions by the end of 2017. Well, they had all of their control technologies in place by then, but difficulties, excuses, whatever you want to call them, Hurricane Harvey being one, trying to get supplies for their control technologies. Everything was in place by the end of the year, but it well into January, they were still saying they were trying to work out the kinks and, fine tune everything. So here we are, March, what is it, 6th? And as far as I know, still don't have fresh information. They are supposed to report information on the samples by the 15th of, say, the 15th of February. We were supposed to have January numbers and we didn't. So they were dragging their feet on the numbers. DENCA itself. The EPA numbers showed that the emissions were still pretty high for January. So to get February's numbers, we won't have those till mid-March. I think I'm talking about end of December numbers too. I don't think we even had January numbers at our last meeting in February. Because he was late on reporting. They were late on reporting the January numbers.
And they said
basically he wants million. What's that?
In the news report, they said they spent 30 million, right, to better the emissions.
Yeah, that number keeps changing. It depends what article or what story you hear it. Sometimes it's 18 million and sometimes it's 30. It just depends on who they're talking to and how much sympathy they want.
Yeah, and it's like if they have that money just to make the emissions better, even if it's 18 million, it just kind of lets you know how much profit, they're probably really making.
Right. How much neoprene is there in the world? My goodness. But
No.
if you look at all the Olympics, a lot of those outfits that a lot of those the luge and all of that stuff, those were all made of neoprene. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure.
Wow. Okay.
So they had a big boost, I think, to get all those Olympic uniforms done.
Okay. And is land cheap there?
I don't know about land, but the housing is less expensive here than
Mhm.
if you get closer into New Orleans or closer into Baton Rouge.
Okay. Well, it's 10 o'clock down there. I don't want to keep you too long. I just wanted to give the viewers the opportunity to, see someone that lives in a harsh, very toxic cancer risk environment. Is there anything is there like what do you smell something from the plant, or is there like you have days trouble breathing? Can you just give me like a
I
personal
don't have
experience?
trouble. I don't have trouble with the breathing. I don't smell it, not from that plant. I do smell it from other plants. On my way home, I drive past other plants, and sometimes I smell it there. The oil refineries. Um, I have been having skin issues now. Whether they're related to that or not, I don't know. But they seem to have it around the time I started going to the meetings, and the meetings are held in an area close to the plant in the highest risk census tract. So, I don't know if it is or it isn't, but I have been having some issues with my skin, uh, rashes and things in
It's
places I never had rashes before.
uh-huh. And see, this another thing is these companies, they're vulnerable, they attack vulnerable communities, and they maybe stay in business for a few years or a few months. They make a lot of profit and then they leave. Meanwhile, especially with the particulate matter, you can't see it. And a lot of these illnesses that you get from the air pollution, it doesn't manifest for years. So
Right, right.
these companies can be long gone or they got shut down. And a few years later, people all these illnesses and cancers start popping up even more. People don't know what's going on. And it could be from,
Right.
when the company was there before. So that's why these stories are very important.
My two oldest children are on the list to be tested for the metabolites because they both one spent 4 years and one spent 3 years in close proximity to the plant because of the Hurricane Isaac that flooded the high school,
Mm-hmm.
which is directly across one highway and a sugarcane field from the plant, the high school here, the only high school in the parish on this side of the river. Um, then, because that was flooded, they moved to another location that was also in close proximity to the plant. So I'm concerned about because of what you just said. Okay, they breathe that chemical for 3 years, one of them in 4 years. Now, 20 years from now, maybe they'll get cancer because of that. But like you said, from here, and who's going to make that connection that it was them, was that breathing that chemical for those 3 years while they were across the highway from the plant?
So that school is real close to the plant? It's a school?
There are several schools. There are 3 schools in close proximity to the plant. One of them that is on the fence line and basically on the same piece of land as the plant
Oh
is an
my
elementary
God.
school that they just started
Oh.
having this year in they there now. So not only little tiny children, it's pre-K children.
Well, and
And
those
we have people who are advocating to shut the school down with the school board, but the school board is not budging.
And see, the people most susceptible to illnesses from, air pollution and particulate matter are the elderly and the young children, because the
Right.
elderly, the young children, their bodies are still developing. So they may
Right.
have a tougher time fighting these things. So
Right.
that's terrible. And you said there's a sugarcane field, so there's food being grown that's probably
That's right.
absorbing these chemicals. And
Yes.
then
Yeah.
they're eating, wherever the food is shipped to, these people are eating probably some of that stuff. It's just all, and the environment is so connected. And as I keep saying, yes, this can happen in any communities. It generally happens in
It it is happening
minorities.
in
Yeah,
communities.
and the thing is,
Unfortunately.
it doesn't discriminate.
Mm-mm. No.
So it's okay. So yeah, this this is, hopefully, like I said, we'll keep following it. Hopefully we can get more people to speak about it. I'll do some more in-depth videos myself on this channel, raising more awareness of it. But this issue should definitely be, just like Flint. Just, there should be people that, like how people were at the Nakota Access Pipeline. They should, people
Right.
should be down there, hopefully. So, we'll try
Right.
to get something going. I'm just doing what I can, and
Well,
bring
we
more
appreciate
awareness
it.
to the situation.
Right.
So I'll let you go. It's getting late. I don't want to keep you. Like I said before, I
Okay.
appreciate your time. And
Okay.
any last words before you go, or anything? Or no? That's it.
I'm working on moving
Okay.
because I have another
Okay.
son. I have another son who's in 8th grade at the school across the street from the plant, and I'm not going to let him do that. So I'm going to move before that happens. Before August, I'll be gone from this parish. I'm still going to help these people with this fight because it's wrong and it needs to stop. But I am for my family. I'm working on leaving.
Okay. All right. Well, have a great night. Good luck on your move, and
Thank you.
keep fighting the fight.
Have to.
All right. Good night.
Good night.